Okay, so we'll get started. Thanks for joining us, guys. Thanks for getting on the call today. We've got a big group, which is really good. Attendance had been down a little bit, but looks like we're back up close to 30 guys on the phone, and that is pretty cool. And I suspect some others will jump on as we go. Sarah, can you hear me now? A couple people are saying that I should turn up the volume a little bit. I can't really turn up the volume other than me talking louder. Is that okay? All right. I'll take that as a yes. So we're about ready to go, guys. It's today's the last day of February. Everything and all you guys should be real busy making sales in other parts of the country. You guys, some of you are out on lawns, treating lawns. Many of you have placed your first product order. I know that's hard for us up in the north to really fathom because we just keep getting creamed with snow. It has been, at least in New Hampshire, it's been, I think we're only a couple of inches away from breaking a record for snowfall in the month of February, which is good for the plow guys. There's no doubt about it. But I am sick of it. I've had enough of it. A lot of you guys are checking in here, saying in the console that you've gotten snow too. But man, it just keeps getting worse. And actually down in Texas and down there, you guys got hammered too with a lot of snow, which is nuts. But you know what? I always want to mention that every year that we ever had long winters at Lawn Dog, when we had winters that went into April, they were always literally by far our absolute best sales year. We had our most growth, the most growth of any other period when we couldn't get out on lawns. Now that gets a little scary because for cash flow reasons, because you're not out making money, you're basically selling programs. But if you can get through in terms of cash flow, your best opportunity for growth is always to make sales, at least in lawn care service and fertilization, that kind of thing. I don't know if I can speak to the other segment that you guys are into, with maintenance and construction and design and that sort of thing. I would imagine that long winters probably hurt those sales, but in lawn care, you're always going to make the most sales when winter decides to stick around for a long time. So take advantage of it. If you're in an area where there's a lot of snow and there's a lot of winter left, and it is still February. I mean, tomorrow's March 1st. It's time to get going. But your sales campaign should be in full swing. If you followed along with us when we built the sales campaign and we built our plan, and we did some cash flow stuff, and we did all of our sources, and we did some budgeting, you should be in full swing right now. And if you're not, it's not too late. It's certainly not too late to implement something and get something out the door. Just get organized, write a plan to make it happen, and you can still make lots of sales. I talk to a lot of you guys all the time about certain things that you're doing. I see a lot of good results. I see a lot of creativity. A lot of you guys are putting some investment into growing the business and doing some marketing, and I think that's awesome. And as always, if there's any way I can help, please let me know. And for those of you who send me a lot of your pieces, and Frank, I don't know if Frank's on right now. Frank was sending me some proofs for some lettering he did with his trucks and trailer. It looks really good. Chris is doing an insert. Newspaper magazine, print that thing, looks really good. A lot of you guys, hey, what's going on, Frank? Fired up. Anything that you guys are doing, if you need advice on it, or you need a second set of eyes on something, or to proofread something, don't ever hesitate to send it along, because I'm happy to look at it, and I can certainly help and give you my opinion on it. So with that being said, keep up the good work with sales. So many of you are using the instant measurement thing, and Luke tells me that lots of you guys are actually generating estimates, and Frank, you're taking prepayments through My Lawn Quote, which is pretty awesome. Luke told me that you were doing pretty good with that program. A lot of you guys have asked me about how to set up the pricing on there, so we're going to spend a couple minutes talking about that, we'll yeah. See, there you go. Sarah's asking too. Could you show us how to do the pricing? So, you know what, the program. In fact, Dick and I were just talking about that literally just a couple minutes ago. When we set out to build that program, we really thought it was just going to be sort of an auto estimator for customers or potential customers to get an estimate without having to talk to you. And what Luke did was he turned it into this really, like, you've heard me say this before, but it's way more complicated than we intended it to be. So, I mean, the end result is that it's a much more effective and powerful solution, but it's a little bit more complicated to figure out. And I've been working with him all along. We've been at it for a year now, for just about a year. So I'm pretty good at it, and we're going to spend some time going into the guts of My Lawn Quote to show you how to upload your pricing and how to make things work. I like talking about it because I still do believe that it's the way to go with a lot of your estimating process. And the thing is, I just know that if you were using it, last week, remember, I went on a little bit of a rant because some of you guys, and I won't name names, some of you are like, man, I can't make sales. What should I be doing? And I got my my good old-fashioned, winter, lawn care fit going, and it was like, well, one thing is certainly going to prevent you from making sales is to be sitting on the phone bitching to me about how you can't make sales. The best way to make sales is to actually go out and try to do it, and you've heard me talk about that all along, is plan, implement, adjust. So you have to build the plan. The implement part is always the hardest thing, even though in reality it's the easiest thing because you're just going to do what your plan told you to do. But the actual part of just doing it seems to stump a lot of people. So I know with the auto estimator and the outbound quoting system that Luke built, just do that and it will make sales for you. If you do a real lot of it, you're going to be able to make a lot of sales. So, hey, Justin, what's going on? Maybe you're right. This website, I think Luke is actually in there working on it right this second. Dick just sent them some updates to make, so that's why I think it looks a little bit weird. And is Montana not colored in? Actually, it's behind. You're right, Dick. We got to get Montana turned yellow. He's in there, yeah, again. All right. Justin just reminded us. Turn it green, right. Okay, so a couple things. Last week we also wanted to talk about some of the post-emergent products that we have available, and we got all off track like we always do, which is okay. As always, there's profanity in the console. So we're going to talk about somewhat briefly the post-emergent choices that you're going to be able to use, and there's a couple of changes, a couple of additions that are really good. You know what? I just remembered something, and I mentioned this last week a little bit. That starter fertilizer. We have finished working on starter fertilizer that I think is absolutely awesome. And if we have time, actually, I am going to go look for it. I want to bring it up on the screen. We just finished it. I think it's something that you're going to be able to use in your, almost every day, especially you guys that are doing installs in the springtime. This is a biologically active or microbial enhanced starter fertilizer with potassium and phosphorus. It seemed like a no-brainer, and it's funny how we didn't have anything before, and it was one of those deals where I always would say use the 702 or use growth activator when you're aerating and overseeding. If you want to take it to the next level, we've got a growth activator with some mycorrhizal fungi in there that will work even better. But I went to the biologist and I said, we don't have anything specific for a starter fertilizer. Can we do something that has some phosphorus and potassium in it and a certain consortium of bugs that will be mainly focused on getting seed to germinate and root, and it was like it wasn't hard to do. It was, it wasn't a hard product to invent, and I think it's really good. I like it a lot. So maybe I'll dig that up and show you guys. I don't even think it's on the price list or on the due diligence or anything like that yet. but it should be because we determined the price. It's not really expensive either. It's going to be in the neighborhood of $2 per 1,000 square feet, which I think is less than like a triple 19. You can also apply it. The volume of water is not as important as with some of the other products, so you can apply it in a gallon of water per 1,000 square feet. So you could put it in a permagreen if you had to. You could put it, you can use much less volume water. So for those of you who are doing spring installs, for those of you who are doing any hydro seeding, for those of you who are doing spring aeration seed or repair work or any, we always try to limit the amount of seeding that we do in the springtime, and then we always spend forever doing it. This is going to be a great product to use. I think it's going to be pretty good. Finally, I want to talk about, I was on the road this week, and again, if I owe any of you guys emails, and I think I do, I think I owe a couple of you emails. I was on the road this week visiting Perfilon out in Buffalo. They are our biggest dealer. Perfilon, you've probably all heard me talk about them a few times. Really good, old-fashioned, really well-established chemical lawn care service business. Something like, I think they're up to 18,000 customers in 3 branches, and it's just two brothers, Homer and Mike Capotis. I thought it made sense to go out and visit them because actually the goal was to try to get some of our products into their traditional program, and I think hopefully we're going to be able to. But I also stopped out in Rochester and hung out with Mike Callahan, and Mike was supposed to be on the call, and I don't see him right now. Mike, are you anywhere to be found? Hey, he is. What's up, buddy? Hey, I want to talk, and I hope you can talk too if you're able to. I'm going to unmute you and talk a little bit about what we did. It was just yesterday. I got in last night around 2 a.m. I did make it, but all of my flights were really delayed, and I was kind of lucky to make it home. I got home at 2. But Mike went out and he made, I'm going to refer back to the Just Do It category that I was ranting about a little bit earlier, because we've spent a lot of time talking about how to generate municipal work and how to generate some of those big accounts, the big campus type accounts. So what Mike and one of his sales guys did was they simply called some municipalities, and they simply called a couple other a hospital and asked for a meeting. And we went around and we did the meetings, and we made sales. Mike, do you mind if I unmute you? I don't know if you're hooked up to audio. If I unmute you, can you talk a little bit to the gang? Type it in there. If you don't have audio, that's okay. All right, I'm going to try to Hey, Mike, I unmuted you. Can you say something?
Yeah, Tom, can you hear me?
What's up, buddy? Yeah, good. So, this is going to work out good. Why don't you give a little spiel about what we did yesterday to everybody and encourage them to do the same, because based on our success doing it yesterday, there's no reason why they can't do it either.
Yeah, absolutely. What we did is, first of all, just checked out some school districts and municipalities, did some research online as far as their websites to learn a little about what they were doing, some contact people, and basically just cold called and worked the phone line as far as the gatekeepers to get past them, and just set up some face-to-face time, which amazingly worked really well. We had 4 meetings, 2 of which were school districts, 1 of a hospital, and 1 a municipality, and probably landed jobs, I would say, as long as the pricing's decent, 3 of the 4. So it was like taking candy from a baby, honestly.
One thing that we found that happened, the first stop that we made, and it was snowing, so it wasn't exactly the greatest time to pin these guys down, but we went to this hospital sort of campus with multiple businesses, I guess, on the campus. There's what, a daycare, a giant hospital, a couple other buildings, right, Mike?
Yeah.
I mean, how many acres total is that joint? I mean, it's huge.
About 35, 40 acres broken up into 3 or 4 segments.
Right. So we're talking to the head of maintenance there, and he's just like us. I mean, he's just a worker, and he was actually kind of busy doing some snow removal and just running around. So we we got his attention immediately, but we kind of got over the hump a little bit because, you know, we almost, we're sales guys, right? It looks like we're going in there to try to make a sale, but we kind of got down on his level and we started making sense to him, and we ended up having a real good talk. And what happened, Mike? I mean, it was that was taking candy from a baby.
Yeah, within about 5 minutes, he goes, well, if not anything else, we'll get you the daycare, and which was about 3-4 acres, and he said, bid out the other couple places in the complex, and if they fall in line, you got a good shot at it. But I think the key was there not to present yourself over the top as an extremist, and it was real obvious once you figured out who you're talking to and you addressed yourself and talked at their level, it seemed to go a lot easier and the doors opened real quickly.
That's a very important point, because we didn't want to come off as sales guys. We wanted to come off as lawn guys, and we didn't want to come off as activists either, because, you know, that turns those guys off. I mean, most people are kind of, you know, I should mention here, we're talking New York State, where there is some legislation in place in some, you know, with schools and where children generally congregate. So we got a little bit of a leg up there. But we ended up just, as Mike said, on his level, and we asked to do a bid for the whole thing. And as the conversation kept going, it was like, hey, you know what? That sounds pretty good. At the very least, you know what? We'll give you the daycare. So, I mean that's as good as a sale right there for the most part, Mike. I mean, as long as you come in with the pricing on the right level, I think you're going to get that, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. As long as price points within reason. He almost alluded that even if it was a little bit high, he'd be happy to give it a go, given the organic nature with the kids.
So after we did that one, we went to a couple of municipalities. One of them, the guy was Ed. Old Ed was more interested in telling us about his grandkids than talking about the turf, but that was okay because we were more than happy to talk about his grandkids. We got to get them a bid. But the other one, it was almost the same thing. One of the other ones was basically, oh, you know, once we got on the same level as these guys, and we were talking to the groundskeeper, another guy who kind of worked on the crew, and an administrator as well who was kind of running in and out. And they told us about some of the issues that they had in the past. And the same thing happened there, where they said, you know what, at the very least, we'll give you a field. And I think that one's as good a go-to. Do you think, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. As long as there's no bear attacks while we're playing, the product would probably be in good shape.
All right, so Mike just made a joke about bears. One of the things that we were able to accomplish while we were in there is Mike's sales guy, he's a lawn guy who's doing sales for Mike, was able to, this woman, the administrator there, had a bunch of bear things, like black bear, like posters. She was really into bears. And this guy completely disarmed her as the gatekeeper. And I think that had a lot to do with our success. I think that the lesson to be learned from that is you don't want to go in there as a salesperson. You want to go in there as somebody that they can relate to. And it's just about having some balls. I mean, I hate to say it, you just have to ask. So, you know, we made 4 stops. I think, you know, you're definitely going to take away sales from at least 3 of them. And, you know, if it all works out, you could be talking some serious acreage. And this was one day. This was just one day. And hopefully you should be. You plan on doing some more too?
Yeah, absolutely. We've already started making calls today. After that trip with those 4 stops, we're kind of inspired, actually. We're going to get after it. And it didn't even think, at least I didn't think that there's that big of a niche market in the school districts, and as well as some municipalities. So there definitely is a market there that's completely untapped that I think 99% of the competition has no idea that it's there. So people were almost refreshed that we were calling them, almost aiding them in the process, because they know they need to go that way, but they have no idea how to do it.
Yeah, that's a huge point. And Sarah Wiley, who works with Dave up in Scarborough, and actually was on the board or worked for the town as we kind of got the got the process going. Sarah just typed in here, she writes, balls are big in sales. And that's true. I mean, you know, you have to ask. You really just have to ask. I mean, and actually, okay, Justin brings up a good point here. He says, could you explain the lawn guy sales pitch? Any tips on how to not sound like an extremist while trying to sell organics? Mike, you want to take a swing at that for a minute?
Yeah, I think absolutely. Basically, you wanted to just get in there, get knee-to-knee with the guy, show him what you're all about, and not necessarily press the sale to the end. And it wasn't even that we were pressing the sale. Once we kind of saw what they were looking for, most of the people, I'd say 3 to 4 people, asked for us to give them a bid before we even brought it up. The fourth one, we had to press a little bit, but it was just a gentle, hey, do you mind if we get you a price for at least one field and go from there? And they were very responsive to it. So I think once you get in there, build some rapport and show them that you're not totally against using pesticides once in a while, and you're there to help them along the way, they almost offer up the opportunity to bid it out before you even bring it up.
And that's a good point on Justin's second question there is how do you not sound like an extremist while trying to sell organics? Well, that's kind of easy because you find a middle of the road a little bit. Because if you're dealing with the groundskeeper or the guy who's got his boots on the ground out there, he knows the same set of problems that you deal with. So you're going to relate to him, and he's going to say, you know, we had some weeds, and you know, we tried to go organic, but the soccer. Actually, I think he was the field hockey coach. He was talking about how, you know, they were really upset about some clover, and you know, so kind of soften my opinion or my advice is soften your approach with that. Don't ever let the advocacy hurt the potential for a sale. So say something like, you know, if we have an issue with clover and the field hockey coach is really upset and we haven't been able to take care of it, you know, organically, you know, maybe it makes sense to apply for, you know, if it's a situation where you're under restrictions, you apply to be able to use the products, or just say you're willing to do whatever it takes to keep everybody on the same page and happy. That's a little dangerous. You can't keep everybody happy, but you have to let them know that you're willing to bend. And you're not the one there saying, hey, if I ever spray a patch of clover again, I'm going straight to you know where. Don't give that impression. We always have to remember that we're trying to make sales and grow a business, and we don't want to do it based on you know, our fist in the air. You know, keep the fist in the air for after 5 o'clock and weekends, or you know, whatever. Try to make sales, and I think you really have to be willing to bend a little bit. Here's another question, and this is a good one too. Mike, I'm going to defer to this to you. It's a real simple one, Vinny. Who do you call to get the appointment? Who did you ask for?
Most of it was just the either the head of grounds, or if it looked like it was a really large school district where you might not be able to get in, their assistant. I seem to have more success asking for the assistant head of grounds instead of the head of grounds, because obviously their day is tied up. So that seemed to be, once we hit the gatekeeper, we kind of asked for the assistant versus the head guy and worked our way up from there. Other key thing is to make notes, whoever you're talking to, whoever's answering the phone, their name, if they bring up their kids, anything like that, so you can relate and bring it up down the line. It seemed to help build some rapport and get you in a lot quicker.
Yeah, just to disarm the gatekeeper again. So, screensaver. Okay, so I think that's actually, I wouldn't have thought of that, to be honest with you. Asking for the assistant, that's a pretty smart move, because you might not get through to the head groundskeeper. So, you know, ask for the assistant groundskeeper, and that person is anybody who's an assistant anything wants to work their ass off, so they're not the assistant anything forever. So if you come to them with an idea that might get them some attention or might make them look good, I think that's a great strategy, man. I like that a lot. The assistant, that's a good one. All right, Mike, I'm going to mute you again. You're out of here. Thanks.
All right, buddy. Thanks again.
Yep. So, unless there's any other questions, if anybody else wants to drop something on Mike, we'll move on to the other things here. But I was really happy with the results that we had, and it was, again, like I said, it was kind of a crummy day because it was snowy and icy, and you know, it was just one of those days. And we walked out with sales. I mean, for the most part, we were making sales. I was really surprised that almost in every single one it was, well, we're not going to give you the whole thing, you know, because I'm somewhat skeptical. They had to have a little bit of disbelief, but you know, hey, we'll give you some of it and see how it works out. So try it. Make some calls. Ask for the assistant. That's a great idea. The assistant grounds crew manager or whatever, and just go in. with some balls and say, hey, I just we wanted to touch base, and as Mike says, sit knee to knee and tell you what we can do, and ask if we can do a bid. Try to find out what the specifics are of the bidding process. I know that in a lot of municipalities it goes the fiscal year goes June to June. I think a couple times yesterday we found that it was July to July, or summer to summer. At one place it didn't matter. The person we talked to had the discretion to put anything out to bid any time that he wanted to. In a lot of cases, when they do put something out to bid, they have to put it out to an invite to a general bid to everybody. But if you've got the inside line, you're in good shape. So make a call, make an appointment, find out the specifics, and give them a bid. And if you need help, let me know. And I'm sure Mike would be more than willing to offer advice too, because we kind of nailed it yesterday. I was pretty happy with it. So that seems to be a common theme we've been working on for months and months now, and we've got some great historical data to make it work. Speaking of historical data, and Sarah, I think that you'll probably be okay with this too. Use Scarborough as a case study, where Dave and Go Green were able to literally make it happen. It was a little bit of a different story where they had a ban in place and were looking for somebody to do it, but use Scarborough as a case study. And I said on a couple of occasions yesterday, go ahead and Google it. Google, Scarborough Organic Turf Care, and you'll definitely find something. So, all right, anything else on that, you guys? All right. I'm going up to the questions, make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, so I'm going to spend a little bit of time on these post-emergent products, and what I did here is really just go to the product's website. As you know, products like Fiesta and Adios and Final Sand are the three we're going to talk about right now. Are certainly not products that we manufacture. All of the other products are our own products that we'll make for you. These products are products that basically we distribute. We act as distributors for the manufacturer and try to negotiate a good price for you guys. So, hey, Billy, what's going on? Did you just arrive, or are you just being polite and saying hello? So, Fiesta. Most of you guys worked with Fiesta last year. We had somewhat varying opinions with Fiesta. It's not cheap. That's one of the issues, and it can add up. You kind of have to know a little bit of the tricks of the trade. You certainly don't ever want to do a blanket app of Fiesta. You want to make sure that you're spot treating. I guess you could do a blanket app as long as you're charging appropriately. But Fiesta is the chelated iron, water-soluble, post-emergent that works really well. We found, or a lot of you guys told us, the feedback was that the labeled rate, I'll go to the label right here, the labeled rate of Fiesta is to mix 5 ounces of active ingredient per gallon out of a hand can or backpack. And it was amazing how we get consistent feedback that if you increase that to just 6 ounces per gallon, then Chris, you're right, 7 or 8, there was an enormous increase in efficacy. Does it say 5 to 7, Scott? I thought it just said flat out 5. They may have actually changed it. I'm going off the top of my head and what I know. If they changed it to say 5 to 7, then they're calling 5 the low end rate. Anytime you're going to try to kill a weed, and you guys, oh, they did just change it? Okay, that might have been based on some feedback from us too. The smaller the weed, the easier it is to kill, obviously. So the more you can get out there and treat weeds early in the spring, and you guys know the flow of the whole deal. Round one, the beginning of round one, it's not a big deal. Then it warms up and everything explodes, and then there's the dandelion invasion and everything else. So, you kind of have to go with it. But the smaller the weed, the faster it's going to die. This is a list of the weeds that Fiesta is claiming to be able to control. Fiesta obviously works really, really good on dandelions. You know, we've seen it, you know, kill a dandelion in 2 hours. Hey, what's going on, David and Dan? Hey, I know, I believe I owe you guys an email about Permagreen. And I said earlier in the call, I was on the road for the week, so I'll get that to you guys too. Question about a spread. Hey, Phil, what's going on with you too? Spreader sticker with Fiesta? You could. I think you could put some sort of an adjuvant in there. But when you're spot treating, you know what? I'll always defer to the fact that it's no different. It's no different at all than your typical Trimec or three-way type formulation. You're going to get the same sort of results. Meaning there are certain weeds. You know, any wild ivy or any you know, creeping Charlie, those sort of hard to control weeds, it's going to struggle with a little bit. But it is, again, it's a post-emergent broadleaf weed control. So it is not, to answer the question here, it is not a grassy weed control. It's not going to control crabgrass. It's not going to control orchard grass. It's not going to control anything like that. It's strictly a broadleaf weed control. Some of the annuals, like oxalis, I see is on here. You know how when you spray oxalis, sometimes it turns it purple a little bit? Even when you're spraying it with three-way, it'll turn it purple and it won't kill it all the way. Same thing with Fiesta with this. But I know that at 5 ounces per gallon, it will work. It doesn't work great. If you increase the rate up a little bit to 6 or even to 7, it will work really well, but it's a cost issue because it does start to get a little bit expensive. A spreader sticker might be a good idea. Phil mentions that if you know, if you put something in there, an adjuvant, that's something that you buy at Lesco, or even a little bit of soap or something, it might help the product bind more closely to the weed and kill it. So that's Fiesta. Does anybody have any other comments or questions or anything to say about Fiesta? It's one of those things that, you know, fits a certain need for us. Again, it wouldn't do a whole lot of blanket application. The smaller the droplet size, the higher the pressure, the better coverage you get with it, the better it's going to work. You have to always know the tricks. Don't ever leave a weed by the mailbox. Don't ever leave a patch of clover by the walkway. You know, you may not be able to control every single weed every single time. You know, you want to try, but, you know, if you're in a hurry and you're rolling and you got to get things done, just make sure you always, especially dandelions, any dandelion that, you know, when a homeowner sees that the dandelions are dying, they're like, hey, this stuff's really working. This is awesome. You know, so make sure you get the big ones. The earlier in the season, the better. So we did a lot with Fiesta last year. Mixed results. It does work. Works better at a higher rate. Reading questions here. A certain type of backpack spray should be used with it since it's iron-based. No, Phil, you can use. I think you can use any sprayer, any typical. What is it? Hudson was one we used to use. Backpack sprays were one of those things that I didn't buy the cheap ones. Hand cans, I'd always buy the cheap ones because I just go through so many of them. Buy the inexpensive ones. With a backpack, make a little bit of an investment because they'll last the whole year. The $15 hand cans, it's almost like they're disposable. So you can go ahead and you know, go through several of those a year. But the backpacks, you know, make a little bit of an investment. So there's Fiesta. The next one that came out, let's close this. That's the label again. Manufactured by Engage Agro. It's a good product. So there's this new one here called Adios. Keith, are you on the call? Keith is always the Adios expert here, and I just had a deja vu because I feel like we've done this more than a few times, but. This is an alternative to Fiesta, and if I'm repeating myself to some of you guys, forgive me, but I've talked about this a lot. Scott and I tested it last fall, again, based on, it was Keith Hates who brought it to our attention. He had been using it through a different distributor, and we got in touch with the manufacturer of the product, a company called Urbanature, up in Canada when we're a distributor for them now. This product is really interesting in that it is a selective, post-emergent broadleaf and grassy weed control. So when the crabgrass hits, when the crabgrass decides to ruin your life in July and August, you're going to be able to say, okay, I'll come out and spray it. Now, we know how that goes. Coming out and spraying crabgrass with a post-emergent is usually not the best. It's a hell of a lot easier said than done. You're very seldom going to be able to get complete control of a crabgrass breakthrough with a post-emergent. And you could break the bank too. But the trick is always to let your customer know you're going to work hard. You're gonna do the best you can to deal with the crabgrass. You're gonna make specific recommendations on mowing and watering, and talk about why it's there, and blame the weather and blame the drought and blame the soil, and it's all about placing the blame and dulling the pain. But try to let the customer know why the crabgrass is there. It's usually as a result of compaction, heat, and everything else. And I don't need to tell you guys that, but at the very least, this product, Adios, is labeled for and does control crabgrass on a post-emergent basis. I didn't believe it was gonna, but it did. We tested it last fall. It was a little bit later in the year, and it was kind of cold, so the crabgrass had actually reached near the end of its life cycle. We tested on all different tiller stages. There were some new crabgrass plants that it took care of very, very easily. The older crabgrass plants that had been through a longer generation or had been at it growing, since the first generation, it didn't do very well on those, but that's going to be the case with anything. Adios is going to give you a tool that we've never had before to be able to go out and say, okay, I'm going to come out, look at your crabgrass, and I'm going to spray it. I'm telling you right now, you're not going to be able to take care of all of it. But again, if there's crabgrass by the mailbox, spray it. And you guys are all familiar with this game. I'm wasting my breath here trying to explain what to do with crabgrass because you guys have all been there. But so, is it NOFA compliant, Chris? I don't know what NOFA's official stance is on it. I'll ask Chip. Oh, it is NOFA compliant. That's what you're saying. Did you guys talk about it at the last NOFA thing, Chris? Did you guys talk about Adios? Do you mind if I unmute you? You can rant about it a little bit. You got a minute? Okay, hold on. So Chris Paul, who is in Jersey, and usually he's the butt of some of my jokes on these calls, and then he calls me up and yells at me, just went through the whole NOFA training and raved about it. Let me find you here so I can unmute you. And I want him to talk about the Adios a little bit and what NOFA has to say about it. Why can't I find you on my, there we go.
Can you hear me? Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Sounds like you're in the warehouse, but yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
I just shut the compressor. They didn't have a lot to say. They just wanted to, apparently there was a lot being said about Fiesta. A lot of people were assuming Fiesta was okay with NOFA standards, but it was not. And then I forgot who it was that brought up Adios, and that it did meet the NOFA standards.
And I think probably the reason that they're giving that clearance is because, as Kevin mentions here, it's OMRI approved, and
Right.
A lot of you guys know my feelings about OMRI, but an EPA exemption is important. They must have talked about that, right?
Yeah, that's the big one for NOFA.
Okay.
The EPA.
So
Yeah.
it's an EPA exempt product, and the reason it's EPA exempt because it's salt. If you look at the ingredients right here, sodium chloride, which is just salt, and then potassium chloride, sodium bicarbonate, and potassium bicarbonate. So somehow, some way, they were able to get just the right mix and concoction and levels. And I guess I can't really speak to how or why, other than I know salt will kill weeds. I don't know why it's going to kill the weeds and not the grass. Did that come up at all?
No, it did not actually. I think it has something to do with like carbohydrate deprivation. So.
Yeah, carbohydrate deprivation. Okay.
But yeah, Keith had a lot of success with it last year. He said his tech was saying they would spray the front yard, walk to the back, and by the time he came back to his truck, it was already curling.
Yeah.
And
You know,
since we're on the NOFA thing too, so, any of the guys in the Northeast, man, I really, really recommend you guys go to that training. It was super great. A lot of great
yeah.
stuff.
Hey, you know what? Hey, can you spend just 45 seconds or however long you need talking about that? Because I
Yeah.
agree with you.
I sure can. I went up right after the storm and actually got delayed a day or two with one of my techs, and it was probably the most well-organized training outside of yours, of course, Tom, that I had been to. I mean, it was every minute of the day was planned out, and there was a great amount of continuity in each one of the talks, and then the continuity between the speakers was very well thought out. So the things they really wanted to drive home as far as the soil food web and, cultural practices, you were getting little bits of exposure over and over and over again across the course of the 4 days. And what they did, what was great versus the Rutgers one I had gone to, it wasn't purely a bunch of academics. These were guys that have been in the field in one capacity or the other for a really long time, and really brought some great things to the table. So much so that, they did a lot of stuff on organic landscape care with, air spading and radial trenching and tree collar correction. I mean, we don't even own an air spade yet, and I've sold like $20,000 worth of radial trenching. And
Of what? What are you talking about?
They were talking when they did a lot more on proper mulching practices, and that, when a lot of the nurseries dig out the plant material, a lot of the excess dirt is getting put up around the collar of the tree, and then it's
Right.
then it's getting burlap, and the guys are over mulching. So they spent a lot of time talking about air spading and using it for tree collar correction, sheet excavation, and radial trenching, which is a great organic practice. You kind of go away from the collar of the tree out to the drip line like bicycle spokes, fill it up with a compost mineral like mycorrhizal kind of recipe, and then you backfill it. And some of the guys that have been doing that for a while were raving about it, and it's a huge billable. We're getting like $155 an hour for it, and we're selling it left, right, and center. We don't even own the tool yet.
Wow. I mean, that's huge. That's awesome.
And it makes you seem a lot smarter than you are when you go to somebody's house and you point out that their landscaper has 9 inches of mulch around the collar.
And that's important for guys like you to actually seem more smarter than you really are.
Well, I spent a lot of time on the phone with you. I really picked up a lot. But no, the four full days, about 9 to 10 hours a day with an hour-long exam, 50 multiple choice questions. But it was some stranger people up there for sure.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt. Yeah, they're there's a few hippies.
Yeah, they did it really well. Everybody got the presentation on a flash drive. They had all kinds of power charging. Everybody had laptops. It was really, really great. We learned a lot, especially having gone through your training and then to get another round of that was fantastic.
And credibility too, you guys, with NOFA, and just because you're not in the Northeast, NOFA is the Northeast Organic Farming Association. It's literally the roots of organic farming, 30 years ago, and they're totally open to anybody taking the course and being involved. It isn't simply a Northeast deal. So, as Chris says, it's definitely worth looking into. I think that was the last class, Chris. Was it the last?
Yeah, they were. Jen is thinking of possibly doing one about 6 months out, but they haven't finalized that. And on that point, they're like really the quarterback of the whole organic thing. And a lot of the states, New Jersey included, with their organic land care programs, they're starting to adopt these programs. They're really using the NOFA standards as the template. So
right. Yeah, and just awesome credibility, good group, and just good all around. And I bust on Chris a little bit sometimes, but for NOFA to appeal to somebody like Chris, who is not a hippie, and I'm not busting on you right now, Chris. Chris is a business person who runs a significant landscape design, build, maintenance. He's about building a good business and not necessarily always about being a hippie. And he and I have talked about this all the time, right, Chris? I mean, this is something that's becoming more and more mainstream than ever before, and it isn't just an extremist type thing. So if you can look into know for it all.
Now, like even with Rutgers, they're starting to do some trials now with, just trying to prove to contractors and people that the organics works. Like tomorrow, if we get that Patriots ball field, that's going to change the industry.
Yeah. Oh, totally. We have a conference call with a minor league baseball stadium tomorrow. Chris went out and, with balls just went up to, right, Chris? You just said, hey, I'd like to talk to you about.
I'll tell you how that they called me and they wanted me to take out like a $15,000 advertising campaign, and I told him I would give him a meeting if he got me a meeting with the groundskeeper.
Perfect. Nice. All right, I'm cutting you off. I got to get rolling here. Sign off. Thank you. Thanks for the NOFA update. Okay, so a couple other questions here about going back to Adios and a couple other ones. Mike saying, keep me in the loop, got a contact for the kind of field in Rochester. Yeah, any minor league stadium that's owned by a major league team isn't going to work. And I'll tell you why, because Scott's, and maybe it wasn't renewed, it might make sense for us to look into it. Scott's has a huge sponsorship deal with Major League Baseball. So most baseball stadium that you go into, out on the outfield or somewhere, is a big advertisement that says Scott's used here. And here in New England, they have a radio ad with Dave Meller, who's actually the groundskeeper at Fenway, talking about how he uses turf builder on Fenway. It's obviously a bunch of crap, but Scott's paid Major League Baseball, I don't know how much money, but it's, it's a lot. I wouldn't even hazard a guess. I mean, it's a national campaign in baseball stadiums to try to get people to believe that the groundskeeper is using, the Scott's four-step program. So I would think that would probably also translate down to the minor league level, where they might not want to get totally involved with the whole, quote, organic thing. But the park we're talking about with Chris is an independent league team. And it's definitely worth it. So, Mike, I don't know. Rochester must have a affiliated team, I would think. So that might be a bit of a challenge. A couple other questions about Adios. Is there a limit to the application for salt buildup? I was just kind of reading a label here as Chris was talking, and I don't see anything. And Scott and I tried to kill grass with it last fall. We oversprayed significant areas to see if it would kill the grass, and we couldn't. It would not kill it. However, I guess if you spray the same area, 10 times, it might hurt it a little bit. So, one thing to note about Adios here, and they will tell us, the manufacturer says, actually it's right here. I was going to talk about dandelions. I didn't notice this was on the label. Doesn't work great on dandelions. It doesn't kill dandelions very well, and this says, to ensure dandelion root kill, make sure Adios accumulates in the center of the crown as well as the covered leaves for whatever reason. And dandelion's usually the easiest weed to control. This one's not doing a great job on it. So that would mean it would make sense to have 2 hand cans in the truck, one with Fiesta, one with Adios, and use the Fiesta on the dandelion and probably the Adios on everything else. That's my suggestion. And we won't go into this, but the list of weeds that it controls. Okay. Any other questions about Adios? Adios, adios. Hasta luego, adios. NOFA compliant, EPA exempt, OMRI certified, actually works. Still a little bit expensive. I mean, the more we kind of obviously the more we get volume up, the more the price will go down, and it's still a new product, and it's, you know, it's, I think it's probably, it's at least double, you know, three-way or a chemical herbicide. So it's not to the point where you're going to mix up truckloads of it yet, but it should come down. Finally, the last one I wanted to bring up was Final Sand. And we just added this to the list of products that we carry for Engage. Engage Agro is the company that makes Fiesta. And some of you guys have asked, and we've sold it, some of it to a couple of you guys. Final Sand is a non-selective, organically acceptable post-emergent weed control. This is the equivalent of Roundup. And I won't lie, I've not ever sprayed it. I've never, maybe we should, Scott, we should maybe get them to send us a little sample and mess around with it just so we can speak a little bit more confidently about it. But Final Sand is going to be non-selective. And we used to purposely not allow any Roundup on lawn care trucks ever, just in case there was a mistake. And obviously that's up to you. But if you spray Final Sand in somebody's front lawn on a dandelion, it's going to kill the dandelion, but what else is it going to kill? It's going to kill everything around the dandelion. So if any of you have a need for a non-selective, so many of us use so much Roundup. Roundup's one of those things that is not very good for you either. They always talk about Roundup not working very well. There's a resistance. A lot of the weeds, we've used so much of it, weeds have built up a resistance, and they keep cranking up the AI in it, so it gets more and more strong all the time, and it's not a good thing. So I would be against using Roundup if you've got another choice. Final Sand is that choice, manufactured by Engage, similar product or same company that makes Fiesta. So get with Scott if you want to buy something if you want to buy some Final Sand. Those are the three post-emergence that we've got in our arsenal right now. Oh, I wanted to talk about grub control real quick, and I know I'm going long, so I won't go into it too much. I think I've got an awesome grub control product. I think I've got two awesome grub control products from a company that we just kind of hooked up with. Nematodes are one of them, but that's not what I'm talking about, Chris. This is it's a Bovaria strain, and a new neem product. We've been trying to get neem into the program somehow because it will work and is labeled for grubs, but a neem oil is not very water soluble. That azosol product is so expensive, it's like, man, how am I going to justify this? So Frank, Dave, and a couple other you guys asking about grub control. I don't want to break it out and tell you about it right now because I got to still kind of working on pricing and all that kind of stuff, and I just want to make sure it's the right move. But what do you charge for grub control? Build it right into any estimate you're going to do, or after they come on board. I'd sell a grub preventative application at 1.5 times your actual application. So for the sake of math, if you're charging $10 for a regular app, charge $15 for preventative grub control. Sometimes you could even charge double. The product is more expensive, so you have to charge for it, but don't make it crazy. Back when Merit first came out, however many years ago that was, and it was so expensive, we were charging double app. So if you were, it's $25 an app for a regular app, you charge $50 for preventative grub control, and the stuff sold like hotcakes. So sell a preventative grub control treatment. I promise you I'll have the right product for you by the time it's time to start doing them. But this has been kind of a thorn in my side for a few years because there's a bunch of products out there, and I can't embrace one specific one. We even invented one. The biologist invented one that actually works, but labeling is an issue. If anybody has $1 million they want to invest in testing to get a grub control, an organic grub control registered, give me a call at the end of the call, and I'll take it and we'll get it registered and make a couple million. But it's hard to get anything registered as a control product, especially as an EPA exempt control product. We'll probably ask the guys at Adios about that. So it's too expensive, and it's a game that is difficult to navigate. So I got these two products from this other company that I think we're going to be able to embrace, but sell a preventative grub control treatment at least 1.5 times your regular application cost, okay? All right, so cedar oil is, yep, Billy, cedar oil works well for grubs. Cedar oil is one of them. One of the issues with cedar oil for grub control is that you've got to increase the rate a little bit, and you've got to irrigate it. Anytime you're trying to control grubs, you've got to get that active ingredient down through the thatch layer, and that's not always as easy as you want it to be. So you increase the rate of cedar oil, and then you have to make sure it's irrigated, and it will work. We messed around with cedar oil on lots of properties last year, and it works pretty well. My goal is to find a more inexpensive and more effective solution, and neem oil I think is going to be the way to go. And there's also new strains of different bacteria that should work too, of biocontrol. And I was supposed to talk to the guy this week. We saw him at New England Grows, and we've been kind of going back and forth. So I'll have something for you, that's for sure. If you have a lawn with major thatch issues, like super thatch, and you don't want to deal with trying to do a mechanical dethatching, we used a version of growth activator up in Scarborough. One of the fields had, I mean, like 2 inches of thatch. It was nuts. There was really no root system in the soil. It was roots growing in thatch. And that was it had a significant grub problem, really bad. So we used a version of growth activator, a bacterial-dominated growth activator. The bacteria specifically designed to degrade thatch, and we reduced that thatch significantly. If you've got a site that you really need to deal with the thatch, let us know, and we can get that product to you too. Anything else with those post-emergence? I'm going to spend some time doing the pricing thing with My Lawn Quote, but I know I've been yapping for an hour here, and not everybody wants to use that. So if anybody wants to take off, feel free. If you want to hang around, I'm going to mess around with setting up My Lawn Quote, show you guys how it works. So feel free to stick around. But if you need to sign off, no problem. So let me stop here. Anything else? Any other questions or anything you want me to touch on before we get rolling? All right, cool. If something comes up, type it in. All right, let me clear some of these. So several of you had suggested that we talk about how to upload the pricing to this. So I'm going to show you the best way to do it. I have this fake, it's not fake, but it's an account that I use to demonstrate things. It's a company that exists in my imagination, and I call it Lawnmark Plus. So I logged into it back here. And what you do, services. So no, Taylor Swift is not my password. Minivans isn't either. I like Taylor Swift. So, you know, what do you want me to say? I mean, I'm not like going to Taylor Swift concerts and stuff. I think Minivans isn't either, with capital M and capital V. And I mean no, Scott, get your mind out of it. Chris always makes fun of me for Taylor Swift because at training, my computer went into sleep mode, or the screensaver came on, and it deferred to all of in my iTunes account. And don't forget, I got 4 daughters, right? So all the screensaver started showing all of the accounts in my iTunes, and Taylor Swift kept showing up, and Chris thought it was funny. And that was more than a year ago, and he will not let it go. And I don't care, because I like Taylor Swift. So in the back end here of My Lawn Quote, we've uploaded, and when you click on services, basically what you do is you put in a description, in this case, I have what's a 6-step residential lawn care program. This one I don't have gold, silver, and platinum. You know what I've got a 6-step program. I've got surface insect control. I've got grub preventative. I've got limestone. I've got aeration. I've got aeration with overseeding. I've got it set up as a premium organic granular spring booster. So when I set this one up, I wasn't doing the whole 3-program thing. I did 1 program with upsells, and you can do that too if you want. So I got a spring granular product. I got a fall granular application. Transitional weed control guarantee, not organic. If any of you guys, this isn't a bad idea. I forget why I put this on here, but transitional weed control guarantee, meaning that you would spray, do a blanket application of an herbicide in the springtime and in probably late summer. And the spring one would include post-emergent for crabgrass too. So certainly, definitely not organic, but this is about inviting everybody to the party. I keep talking about. If you promote yourself as never wanting to ever spray weeds with chemicals, there's a lot of people who don't want to come to your party. So sometimes it's a matter of having your cake and eating it too, and it's okay to take 1 step back to take 2 steps forward. If you've got a lawn that's loaded with weeds and you've got somebody who wants you to spray them, you probably should. I've also got here a high-maintenance organic turf program, a mid-level organic turf program, and a low-maintenance organic turf program. And Mike, this is what I was talking about yesterday. We'll get this set up for you. So to do pricing, let's start here. First, let's edit it. You hit edit. Stop me if you want to ask a question. Service name, service description, and this can say as much or as little as you want. You can do, you know, some formatting. You can add links in there, whatever you want it to be. Spring, summer, fall. I mean, that doesn't really matter a whole lot. He just added a new thing called surcharges, which I don't know that anybody's used yet. Sarah, no, I don't necessarily do it for you. I can help you do it, and if you pay me like, if you promise to have Dave take me out to that Scallop place again, I'll do it for you. I'm actually pretty good at it. It only takes me a minute. So I know Dave is using it, so I can help you out. Surcharges. So Luke just did this thing like if you want to add a surcharge, a lot of times guys were saying, well, what if I'm doing aeration and there's sprinkler heads and I have to mark them? I usually charge extra. So it allows you to add different surcharges. If there's an irrigation system, you can make a modification to your price list for it. I don't know how important that is. Luke seems to think it's huge. Visibility. Show it or don't, like, you know, if the whole sticker shock thing, you might not want to be having your fall cleanup thing show up there in spring. You can take it off or put it on. Fall seeding you might want to take out. Sort order is the order in which it shows up in the estimate. So if you're providing multiple services through an estimate, this is going to show up first. So here's the pricing thing that we're all asking questions about. Fixed price and dynamic price. A fixed price is if it's only one charge no matter how big the lawn is. And with us, everything's going to be a dynamic price, unless you're going to do like an irrigation opening, right? So if you're trying to sell sprinkler system openings, that might be a fixed price. It might not be. I mean, it depends on what you want to do. But in most cases, it's a dynamic price because it's based on the size of the lawn. So with my 6-step lawn care program, there are 6 visits. I'm offering a prepaid discount of 10%. Minimum required square footage. A lot of times people said, hey, I don't want to do the tiny lawns. I want to do tiny lawns. So my minimum square footage is 0. Minimum price, it's going to, let's see here. I should probably have that changed. My minimum price is right here. It's going to always default to 5,000 square feet. So whether it's 1,000 square feet or 5,000 square feet, It's always going to cost the same. I don't want to go below a certain price. So $675 per 1,000 square feet times 5 is $33.75. So that's what this would be here. Luke adds new features all the time, and this is a new one. My minimum price is going to be $33.75. That's basically, so if somebody has a 1,000 square foot lawn, I don't want a price in here. I don't want to charge $6.75 per application for a 1,000 square foot lawn. So my minimum price is that. This is where the pricing is up to you. I always suggest start at 5,000 square feet. Actually, I haven't adjusted this since he's added new tiers as well. This is low. $675 per 1,000 square feet is pretty low. So a 5,000 square foot lawn is going to be $33.75. A 7,500 square foot lawn is going to be $43. So based on what your market is, what your philosophy is, if you want to come in low and hard, if you want to generate volume, if you're in a real dense area, you want to make a lot of sales, bring your pricing in low. $675 per 1,000 square feet is pretty low. Some of you guys I know, and Chris is one of them, in the neighborhoods and areas where the cost of living is much higher, the much more wealthier type neighborhoods. $675 is like peanuts. So know what your competition is charging, know what you've charged in the past, but I mean, it wouldn't be completely out of the world to call that $12 per 1,000 square feet. So a 5,000 square foot lawn is $60 an hour. It's totally up to you. So what you do is you don't upload it. You don't import information here. You need to fill it out. And there's different options based on what you want to accomplish. The cost per 1,000 square feet will be multiplied by the actual measurement. So $675, you're going to want to go down as your lawns get bigger. Sometimes it falls apart a little bit in here. The formula gets a little weird because the bigger the lawn, it's scalable in that you want to charge less per 1,000 square feet because you're going to do more work at one time, but you're still using more product. So my suggestion is always lower it a little bit. And Luke has added these since I've been here last. I'm going to charge $4 per 1,000 square feet for a huge lawn, for maybe a municipal site or something like that. So 350,000 square feet and up. Remember, your product costs in a lot of cases are going to be around $2 per 1,000. And when you're doing huge, sites like this, you're going to modify the program a little bit. Any municipal account, you don't want to go with the regular B-Safe program. You want to try to manipulate it a little bit because your product costs are going to be high. And you can't charge, if this was, it gets expensive. So when you're dealing with gigantic sites, you want to reduce your inputs a little bit because you don't want to get upside down. Does that make sense to everybody? So you don't upload the pricing. You need to build your price list based on exactly what you're trying to do, what your accomplishment, whether it's low and hard or you want to be a real premium service, you want to keep the price up. This price list here is pretty low. This thing I've got in here is pretty low. For those of you who are asking about this, and I know there are several of you guys on here, I just explained it pretty quickly, and I don't know that I was 100% clear. Does that clear it up a little bit? Ask questions if you need to. Yeah, okay. Not 100%, but kind of. So I'm going to save this. Just remember that it's the number times the $5 per 1,000 square feet times 12,000 square feet. So for those of you who got to run, go ahead. And most of you guys are still on. So I know 5 or 6 have jumped off, but most of you are still on. So let's do a quote, and I'll show you how how it works out. I always do this, let's do a big one. Athletic fields and municipalities. I'm using that template, which I've set up already. Anybody want to give me, anybody know offhand the address of a big field or municipality or anything? I think I got a couple saved in here. Nope. How about Fenway Park? All right. That's Lansdowne Street. Anybody know the zip code of Fenway Park? This is all based on zip codes. Anytime anybody searches for something, it might be 02134, yeah. 02215. So 4 Yorkie Way, 02215. Oh, 2115. Is that what it was? No, Tina, I'm not going to Yankee Stadium. No. Fenway Park, 02215. Thanks. So David Mallett just called up and said, hey, Tom, I'm not using Turf Builder on Fenway anymore. You want to give me an estimate? Sure, Dave. I can do that for you, buddy. No problem. Let me just get a measurement. Kevin, that's sometimes that's the case. Kevin says sometimes it doesn't bring them to the right house, and you're at the mercy of Google Maps. And here's why I don't think it's a huge deal. Don't talk to Luke about it because it's not him. It's Google Maps. So if somebody calls you and says I want an estimate, you get the address from them. So in this case, if it didn't know exactly what Fenway Park was, and say it was a block over, and I'm talking to Dave, I'm like, Dave, this doesn't look like a baseball field. I see a big Citgo sign. And he'd be like, oh, yeah, no, just go 2 blocks down. That's my site. And I don't think it hurts because what you're going to do is have the ability to do some small talk. Like, hey, yeah, okay, oh, no, I see. Oh, there's the big baseball stadium. And then you're going to be able to get them engaged a little bit. On the other hand, when somebody's entering their own address, they know their house. Exactly, you guys are exactly right. Is it your neighbor's house that has the pool? Oh yeah, I'm the one next door to that. It's a Google Maps thing, and there's nothing you can do to change it. I mean, we make a joke around here that you don't exactly call Google, like, hey, Mr. Google, I have a question about an address. I mean, you're out of luck. So it's definitely nothing Luke can do. A couple guys bring up a couple other points. If you have Bing open next to it, it's going to be able to also you can cross-reference with Bing Maps, a couple other things. It's not perfect. It's definitely not perfect. It gives you an opportunity to be able to have a conversation with somebody. Mike, what are you talking about? Is there an app to bring up Bing side by side with Google? Is that what you mean? All right. So we got that. The infield is infield. I got them a little bit off with that, but not too bad. And then I got to do the back here. Talking to myself, sorry. Somebody's calling me. My phone is ringing. I'm on a conference call. Talking to myself, sorry. All right, it's not perfect, but so it's like 78,000 square feet. Stephen Betsy, yeah. So then what you would do is if you have a certain minimum, if you charge, actually I'll go back to that. So let's finish this. I hit create quote. Do you guys have a price list printed out? If you do, send it to me. Send me the price list and I'll make it work. Or tell me what you typically charge for a for a 5, 6, 7, 8,000 square foot lawn. I'm going to give them I'm giving Dave these 3 things. He can pick and choose what he wants. I'll give him all these. I've got a message in here that says something like, you can put whatever you want. This is the template I was talking about. Oh. I got to put in the information. Feel free to, most of you guys are still hanging on, so leave if you want. Fenway Park. So I hit send. And it goes to Dave's email address at Fenway Park. So now I'm Dave. I don't get why that is the case, but when Gmail doesn't want to open, it could be the end of the world, right? Sarah, you too? Because my Gmail hasn't wanted to open all day long, and I always have to go to a different browser. You guys are having that same problem? Maybe there's something up. So I'm pretending I'm Dave Meller, and this is my email address. I'm opening it up, and all of a sudden here is an estimate. So I open it. There's the template that I put in there, and he's going to click here to view the quote. And based on that square footage, to take care of Fenway Park, I could take care of Fenway Park, and this is what I would charge them. I'd only charge them $3,300. Hadlock Field would be great, Sarah, but I think that's owned by the Red Sox, and they have the deal with Scott's. So my varsity athletic field high maintenance organic turf program, which I've got built in there, is 8 applications, $500 each, $3,700, and if the Red Sox want to prepay, I'll give them 10% off. If they're going to get stingy and they only want to do 6 apps, I'll do it for $2,300, and I would talk them out of doing my low maintenance option here. So, I mean, that's how the whole thing works. You've got your pricing built in. This is very inexpensive. I think, what did I do? I put $3 per 1,000 or $4 per 1,000 square feet in here for, whoops, where did it go? Very inexpensive. If you're going to give an estimate to Fenway Park, I'd probably get them a little bit more. But, I mean, if you're dealing with municipalities that have, a little bit of an issue with money, that's not horrible. My varsity program here was, I believe it was $4 per 1,000 square feet I was charging. 50 beers a visit, right? How much does it cost at Fenway now? I don't think I went. I think I went to 1 game last year, and it's just crazy. $6 per thousand I'm charging. So all right, that's not too bad. My varsity athletic high maintenance program is 8 applications and $6 per thousand square feet, and this is what we get. So you know what, I went off track a little bit here, but that's how the whole thing works. Dave Meller, the groundskeeper for Fenway Park, called me up, said, hey Tom, I want an estimate to take care of Fenway. I went to the satellite, found the site, measured it, hit him a quote, set them a quote with a couple of different options, and this is what he gets. Hey, you know what, maybe you start sending stuff like this to people. Maybe if I sent it to Dave Meller, I mean, that's ridiculous because nothing would fly, but you know, with Hadlock Field or Chris, when we talk to them down in Somerset, maybe we do something like this. Mike, when we were visiting some of these sites yesterday, this is what you're going to do to get something to them. And sometimes you know, maybe you do a bunch of, oh yeah, you already offered to do it free. That's right. So we won't send them this. But you know, some unsolicited estimates. You do a whole bunch, people are gonna react. I mean, it's about timing a lot of times. So you know, it'll work. But again, the pricing, which is why we're here in the first place, and now I've been talking for an hour and a half. And for some reason, I still have most of your attention, which is scary. That's a sign that we are serious lawn care nerds. Stephen Betsy, your lower pricing. You have to be careful because if you're going to treat a 2,000 square foot lawn, you don't want to put, well, I guess you could put, you know, $15 in here. So $15 times 2,000 square feet would be $30. Actually, in this case, it would be also 1,000 square feet. You don't want to be charging $15 an app. That's not going to work. These lower, smaller lawns are very profitable. And if you're in the neighborhood of, you know, you could be up $9, $10 per 1,000 square feet. If your minimum is $50 per app, let's see here, then you might want to just go start here. Say the minimum square footage is 0, your minimum price is 50. Don't do anything in here and start here. So if you did $10, 10 times 5,000 square feet is $50. That's how you would do it. But still, send me some information and I'll see if I can fix it up for you. Anything else on this? You guys, I know it's working because I talked to Luke, and there are some of you who are actively using it are making sales. And again, Frank, you told me that you were taking prepayments through it, and that's the whole point. So that's pretty awesome. All right, thanks. All right, guys. You got better things to do than sit here and listen to me talk about Fenway Park, although that's a pretty good deal for Fenway. I'm going to send it. I'm going to send this to them. Okay. Last chance, going once, going twice. We're completing February. You're rocking into March. Keep it busy. If what you're doing right now isn't getting you closer to your sales goal, stop and do something different. It's all about making sales in the month of March. You know, you got to get to your sales goal. Stick to your plan. Plan, implement, adjust. We don't adjust until June 1st, so just implement your asses off. Okay, guys, thanks. I'll talk to you again. Give me a call if you need anything. Send emails. Place your round 1 orders. Talk to Scott. We've had some orders come in, and I know it's early for some of you, but if you didn't do those surveys, send it back to us because we're still trying to get a grasp on volume and things like that. And we'll talk to you again. Thanks, guys.